Sandwiches have been a lunchbox hero, a picnic essential, and the star of family gatherings for generations. But the ones our grandparents grew up eating looked nothing like what we're piling onto bread today. Before delivery apps and deli counters took over, home cooks were stretching leftovers, working around wartime shortages, and turning simple pantry staples into something genuinely craveable.
From creamy corn spreads to bacon paired with peanut butter, these sandwiches tell the story of an era, one shaped by scarcity, resourcefulness, and a willingness to experiment that we don't always see in kitchens today. Some of these combinations sound strange on paper, but they earned their place at the dinner table for a reason.
So grab a snack, because today we're counting down 20 sandwiches that once dominated American kitchens before fading out of style. A few of these might surprise you, and a couple might even make it back onto your own menu. Let's get into it.
1. Creamed corn sandwich. This lunchtime staple couldn't have been simpler. Sweet, creamed corn kernels piled onto buttered bread. To dress it up, people would add a layer of cheese and a scattering of herbs or vegetables, then run the whole thing through a panini press. It made for a quick, satisfying meal before a long day at school or work, and it was especially beloved by anyone juggling a hectic schedule. As American tastes evolved, though, the creamed corn sandwich slipped out of the spotlight. It still has a following among people who grew up with it, and it remains a decent homemade option for vegetarians, though these days you'd be hard-pressed to find it on a restaurant menu. It's low-calorie and easy, even if there are tastier options out there. If cheese is more your speed, the next sandwich on our list might be right up your alley.
2. Pimento cheese sandwich. Just the name of this one is enough to stir up nostalgia for anyone who remembers it. Pimento cheese, along with other cheese-based sandwiches, took off in the early 1900s as cheese became a household staple across America. The recipe couldn't be easier. Mayonnaise, warmed milk, shredded cheddar, and diced pimento peppers, spread generously on fresh bread.
Though the idea originated up north, the sandwich became a true Southern institution, largely thanks to the region's abundant pimento pepper crops. Over time, changing tastes and the rise of quicker dining options pushed it out of the mainstream, but it's never fully disappeared from home kitchens. Its real charm lies in that creamy, tangy spread, which works just as well as a dip, a side dish, or a burger topping.
Our next entry is another beloved spread that's fallen out of the spotlight, but never really left.
3. Anchovy paste sandwich. Remember this one? It was a defining snack of the 1950s and 60s, so woven into pop culture that it even played a role in the 1960 James Bond story For Your Eyes Only. It takes a bit more effort than most sandwiches on this list, but it's still fairly straightforward. Anchovy fillets, breadcrumbs, milk, olive oil, pepper, cucumber, and butter, served on toasted bread.
Mash the anchovies and mix them with the breadcrumbs, oil, milk, and pepper until you get a smooth paste. Fold in the cucumber, spread it on the toast, and you're done. It's not for the anchovy averse, but for anyone willing to give it a shot, it's a genuinely tasty, nutritious option, and that anchovy spread doubles as a versatile condiment for other dishes. It's a shame this one, along with the next, has largely faded from memory. 4. Bacon and peanut butter sandwich. Calling this one amazing almost undersells it. Bacon and peanut butter together is oddly addictive. It's a strange pairing on paper, which makes its popularity in the 50s and 60s all the more surprising. All it takes is peanut butter, banana slices, and strips of bacon between two pieces of bread. Nutritionally, it packs enough punch to power you through a rough day, making it something of a cheat code for busy schedules. Like so many treats of that era, shifting tastes eventually pushed it to the sidelines, though it still shows up on tables across the country. If you're up for experimenting, try adding a squeeze of ketchup or caramelize some onions into the bacon for extra flavor.
It's the kind of sandwich that hooks you after one bite, much like the one coming up next.
5. Mock ham salad sandwich. This was the sandwich for anyone who had everything they needed for a ham sandwich except the ham. Beyond how easy it was to throw together, its popularity in the 1950s also came down to how cheap and accessible the ingredients were, and, of course, how good it tasted. It was practically designed for its era, built almost entirely from ingredients that might otherwise have gone to waste.
To make it, combine ground bologna, finely chopped hard-boiled eggs, minced onion, chopped sweet pickles, and mayonnaise. Then let the mixture chill in the fridge before spreading it on your bread of choice. As meat prices dropped over the following decades, there was less reason to fake a ham sandwich when you could just make a real one, and the recipe gradually disappeared.
It still has a place among people seeking meat-free alternatives, much like the sandwich up next.
Number 6. Bologna salad sandwich. Rumor has it this one was invented during World War II as an easy-to-ration meal for soldiers on long deployments. True or not, by the 1950s and 60s, it had made its way into nearly every household and picnic basket in the country. The recipe calls for bologna, hard-boiled eggs, creamy salad dressing, and sweet pickle relish.
Grind the bologna and eggs together, stir in the dressing, refrigerate for a couple of hours, then spread the mixture onto sandwich buns. Toast it if you're after something warm. It had everything a busy household needed. It kept well, the ingredients were cheap and easy to find, and it tasted great.
As the decades wore on, this kind of hearty, practical food started to feel unnecessary, though the bologna salad sandwich is still enjoyed in plenty of homes today. Unfortunately, our next entry didn't fare quite as well.
7. Fried Spam sandwich. Times were tough during World War II, and good protein was hard to come by. That scarcity created the perfect launchpad for Spam, which had debuted in 1937 and quickly became a pantry staple, thanks to its low cost, long shelf life, and ease of preparation. For many households, it became the go-to, sometimes the only source of protein, and people started putting it in everything. The sandwich version was the most popular use of all: grilled Spam and a slice of cheese topped with mustard or mayo served on toast. It was exactly what hardworking families needed at the time: affordable, filling, and simple. Once meat became widely available again after the war, though, Spam sandwiches lost their edge. Variations still turn up around the world today, so if you're curious, you're not alone.
Our next entry comes from roughly the same era.
8. Egg and sardine sandwich. This was an unusual pairing by modern standards: mashed hard-boiled eggs and sardines between two slices of bread. It emerged in the 1920s and stayed popular through the 1950s, and it's easy to see why. Protein was scarce, and picking up ham or turkey from the store simply wasn't an option for a lot of families. Given the constraints of the time, it checked every box: cheap, quick to make, and nutritious.
As other protein sources became more affordable in the 1960s, the need for it faded, and it slipped mostly into obscurity, the same fate that met the next sandwich on our list. 9. Mock chicken sandwich. Born out of hardship during the Great Depression, this sandwich came about when real chicken and meat were luxuries far outside most families' budgets. People got creative with leftovers, and the mock chicken sandwich was one result. The fill-in calls for 2 finely chopped tomatoes, a beaten egg, grated cheese, chopped onion, herbs, butter, salt, and pepper, all cooked together in a pan before being sandwiched between buns. It offered a bit of indulgence that a lot of Depression-era food couldn't, and it genuinely tasted good, just not quite good enough to compete once real chicken sandwiches became affordable again. It was a clever, resourceful dish for its time, much like the one that follows. 10. Peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich. Another curious combination born in the 1920s. This one is said to have originated in 1929 as a cheap way to feed streetcar workers during a labor strike. In the decades after, it exploded in popularity, showing up in school lunches, picnic spreads, and dinner tables everywhere.
It was cheap, simple, and, despite sounding strange, genuinely tasty. The sweetness of the peanut butter balanced nicely against the tang of the mayo. As preferences shifted toward more familiar flavor combinations, this one gradually disappeared from most kitchens. It was remarkably good for something so basic, but, like the next entry, it couldn't outlast changing tastes.
11. Chicken liver sandwich. While it's no longer the household staple it was in the 1950s, this one still shows up on the odd bar menu, so it hasn't vanished entirely. It takes a bit more effort than most sandwiches here, but it's worth trying if you're looking to broaden your palate. You'll need chicken liver, whole wheat bread, butter, iceberg lettuce, a bit of mayonnaise, and sliced tomatoes.
Marinate the liver in salt, garlic, and lemon juice for a few hours, then pan-sear it and chop it into small pieces. Toast the bread, layer on mayo and lettuce, add the liver, top with tomato, and you're set. It fell out of favor mainly because of how time-consuming it is and a general shift towards simpler flavors, but it still gets plenty of love at dinner tables. Our next entry is a very different story.
12. Banana and mayonnaise sandwich. This one probably sounds like a combination doomed to fail. Mayo and fruit together tends to raise eyebrows, but if you're willing to experiment the way Southerners did when they created it, you might be pleasantly surprised. It's about as simple as sandwiches get. Bread, a layer of mayonnaise, and sliced banana. Strange as it sounds, the tangy mayo actually complements the banana sweetness nicely.
Like a lot of fruit and mayo pairings from the 50s and 60s, it eventually lost favor as people grew wary of unconventional combinations. It packed a surprising amount of flavor for something so basic, just like our next entry. 13. Potted meat sandwich. Potted meat was a clever solution from the early 1900s when preserving meat was a genuine challenge. The meat was boiled down until extremely tender, which made it easier to store than fresh cuts. Making the sandwich itself couldn't be simpler. Just layer butter and potted meat between two slices of bread. Because potted meat was so widely available, this was a practical way to use it. As food preservation technology improved, making your own potted meat stopped making much sense, and the sandwich quietly faded. It's still a convenient option if you're after something quick and easy, not spectacular, but far from bad. You might just find it becomes your go-to in a pinch, much like the sandwich coming up next. 14. Deviled ham sandwich. This spicy spread first won over American households toward the end of the 1800s, gaining real popularity in the 1860s for its long shelf life and bold flavor. It's a more involved recipe. Ground ham mixed with mayonnaise, yellow mustard, minced garlic, chopped onion, black pepper, paprika, and a pinch of celery salt, left to sit for 2 to 3 hours before serving. It thrived in an era when sandwiches were seen as homemade fare rather than a fast food option. As dining habits shifted toward convenience, this time-intensive recipe fell by the wayside. It just doesn't fit the pace of modern life. It hasn't disappeared everywhere, though. It's still enjoyed outside the U.S. by people after a quick, flavorful bite. Our next entry didn't hold on quite as well. 15. Cheese and Marmite sandwich. This has to be one of the more unusual combinations on the list. Cheese layered with Marmite, a thick, savory spread made from yeast extract with a pungent aroma and salty bite. It's the kind of flavor people either love or can't stand, with little middle ground. Like several sandwiches here, it emerged out of necessity in the early 1900s when food options were limited. Despite its odd reputation, it genuinely delivers on flavor, and it's worth trying if you're open-minded about food.
As food became more abundant and varied in later decades, the pairing lost its foothold with American eaters, a fate shared by our next entry.
16. Cold meatloaf sandwich. If nostalgia had a flavor, it might taste something like this, and fittingly, it only gets better the longer it sits. It's another Southern classic, and it's easy to see why. The combination of toasty meat and melted cheese feels like comfort food in its purest form. Its rich mix of textures and flavors made it a hit throughout the 1950s and 60s.
Getting the balance of ingredients right takes a little care, but the recipe itself is simple. Turkey meatloaf, white bread, a touch of butter, cheese, and a dash of mayo. For extra kick, try adding ketchup, tomato slices, hot sauce, or a few strips of bacon. As sandwiches leaned more toward fast food and simpler recipes, this one fell out of everyday rotation, though our next entry took a very different route.
17. Corned beef tongue sandwich. This is probably the most labor-intensive sandwich on the list, and one of the more unusual meat choices too. Its popularity makes more sense once you remember that sandwiches used to be considered a home-cooked, even fine dining meal, rather than the grab-and-go option they've become. It's certainly not for everyone, but for anyone with the patience and skill to make it, it's a genuine standout.
The ingredient list is long. Beef tongue, carrots, chopped onion and garlic, red pepper, salt, black pepper, ground turmeric, mushrooms, lettuce, parsley, lime, bell peppers, paprika, tomato, and a dollop of mayo to finish. It demanded real effort, but it delivered just as much in flavor. It's a shame the modern rush toward convenience pushed it out of everyday kitchens, much like what happened to the next sandwich.
18. Chicken and cranberry sandwich. A true piece of classic American cooking. This one took off in the early 1900s, and the appeal is obvious. The sweet tart cranberry pairs beautifully with the savory chicken at its core. It rode a broader wave of cranberry experimentation at the time, a trend that had mixed results overall, but this recipe was a clear win. It also happened to be a great way to use up leftover chicken. You'll need shredded cooked chicken breast, mayo, chopped green onion for garnish, dried cranberries, shredded apple, chopped pecans, a splash of lime juice, and salt and pepper to taste. As tastes simplified and sandwiches leaned more fast food, this flavorful combination faded from everyday menus, much like our next entry.
19. Scrapple sandwich. The scrapple and egg sandwich doesn't look like much on paper, but it delivers plenty of flavor in every bite. It was popular in the early 1900s when hearty, filling breakfasts were the norm rather than the exception. It hit all the marks of a proper homemade sandwich, substantial, flavorful, and nutritious. And while it takes about 20 minutes start to finish, it's not particularly difficult.
You'll need scrapple, instant flour, black pepper, a splash of butter, a couple slices of cheese, eggs, white bread, and a glass of fresh orange juice on the side. It lost popularity toward the end of the century as people gravitated towards simpler recipes and quicker meals, much like the next entry, though it remains a staple in plenty of American homes, even now.
20. Head cheese sandwich. This might be the closest thing to fine dining on the entire list. Hog's head cheese, a cold cut made from pressed, slow-cooked pork parts, is probably the last thing you'd expect to find in a sandwich, but it earned a devoted following in the 20th century, particularly in the South.
Think of it as a homemade charcuterie board in sandwich form, rounded out with creamy mayo, spicy mustard, and pickles to cut through the richness. It takes some effort to prepare, but the payoff is worth it. As people grew less comfortable with unusual ingredients and time-consuming cooking, this one gradually fell out of fashion.
And that wraps up our list of 20 sandwiches that Americans used to swear by. From wartime creations built out of necessity to quirky flavor pairings that somehow just worked. It's clear these old-school combinations deserve a little more credit than they get these days.
It's easy to forget how much creativity went into a simple sandwich when times were tough. Every one of these recipes tells a story about the era it came from, whether that's the Great Depression, World War II rationing, or just a household making do with what was in the pantry. A lot of them are still worth trying today, strange as some may sound.
If you made it this far, let us know in the comments which sandwich you're most tempted to try, or if we left out a family favorite from your own childhood. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, do us a favor, hit that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe for more nostalgic deep dives just like this one. We'll see you in the next video.